Welcome again, and welcome to tonight's guest, who is joining us tonight from Budapest. Levente Szabo is with Midori Global, and he will tell us something tonight about how to keep your Confluence instance up to date with content lifecycle rooms. And with that, over to you, Levente, and your presentation. And I will just disappear. Just one small remark. Levente has prepared 2 poll questions. The first one I'm starting right now, and the second one a bit later. So if you just could answer those, that would be nice. And see you on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you, Jörg, and Huber for the invitation. I think I already shared my screen, so you should be looking at that. And thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. As you heard, my name is Levente Szabo. I'm a customer success manager here at Midori. And today I will be talking about content lifecycle management for Confluence. And I think it will be a great addition, a new angle to the Confluence related presentations that you've heard probably earlier or previously in this series of webinars, because I watched the previous webinars, and especially the Confluence focused ones. And what stood out for me is that every presenter mentioned how popular Confluence is getting, how great all the features are, how easy it is to create content, share, and collaborate on content with Confluence, and pretty honestly, how easy it is for Confluence to get disorganized and for it to fill up with outdated content. So this is not new. When I talk to customers and people about Confluence, they are pretty excited about the tool, especially when they're starting out. So what people tend to talk about less is the future. What happens with all that content when nobody's taking care of it? Are we sure that whoever is creating content today will be following the life cycle of that content later, and will be checking back if that piece of content needs updating, but still relevant, or maybe it should be deleted or archived from the instance? Our experience here at Midori is that teams tend to think about these things too late, when they already have a problem, and when you have an overgrown Confluence, it is getting harder and harder to clean up your pages. I recommend reading the use case with LinkedIn that I think we just shared among the reading list for this presentation, where LinkedIn just summarized their experience when they needed to clear up their large instance with thousands of spaces and millions of pages. It was a hard job and difficult to do. So what we propose here at Midori is preparation is very important, and you should start thinking about content lifecycle management as soon as you start using Confluence. Before I get into the details, I wanted to just give you a quick image of who we are. Midori has been in the Atlassian ecosystem for more than 10 years now. We are currently a gold marketplace partner of Atlassian, and we are serving more than 4,000 customers, from small startups to the most valuable brands in the world. And the solution I want to present to you today is called Better Content Archiving. It's also an app that's been on the market for a pretty long time, and a top-rated app for Confluence Server and Data Center. This presentation will be concerning Confluence Server and Data Center only, and what we call the solution is basically the content lifecycle management solution for Confluence. It's a dedicated app. It's not something that's doing this and that, and by the way, it takes care of your content lifecycle. It was created just for this purpose with Confluence users and administrators in mind. I structured today's presentation to four sections. First, I want to very briefly give you an idea of what we mean by content lifecycle. So we are on the same page. And then I would like to go into details about what you can do with better content archiving and how you can actually create your content lifecycle rules and carry out a strategy to manage your content lifecycle. So this question, little graphic here is from actually from Atlassian, from one of their ebooks, but I found it very relevant to today's talk. When you create a so again, what I mentioned is what we propose here is managing content lifecycle as soon as you can, so you don't have to deal with an overgrown Confluence later. And the reason we say that is because we think that the basis of all decision making, whether a page needs to be archived or updated, is knowledge about the usage of that page. So if you know when a page was last viewed or last edited, then you can make decisions. And as soon, the sooner you start collecting the data, the better position you will be when you need to make a decision down the line later. So the first thing when a content is created is definitely when you start capturing some information. You start working on some draft, you're taking notes at a meeting, you're working on a business document, and it's still draft, you're still working on it. You created a page in Confluence. It's not public yet, but many important things happened that will be crucial from a content lifecycle perspective. For example, a new page is created. There is a created date. There is a new a user who will be registered as the creator of that page. So there are a number of metadata that are registered, which can be used later. The next step is obviously when you publish your content, it's out there, your team can use it. It's definitely the longest phase of a content, and it's basically the one of the most important phases as well. What happens after that is content goes out of date, and you need to make a decision about archiving it, probably because you are you have some regulatory reasons or compliance reasons to hold on to that data or hold on to that content for a little longer, or you can make decisions to get rid of it completely and delete it from your instance. This is obviously an oversimplified scheme, but I wanted to give you a picture of what we mean about content lifecycle, and that where you need help or where your Confluence admins or Confluence users need help is with the third or fourth steps, when you need to make decisions about what content needs to be archived, because no admin should be expected to chase down users and remind them about what needs to be updated. And if you have thousands or millions of pages, it's really just not feasible. You cannot do that at scale. So when I try to summarize the benefits of content lifecycle management, I came up with 3 things, and I try to support those with a quote from one of our customers as well. The first thing we think it's important is automation. Better content archiving and content the content rules are basically automation. So and it's always the case with automation. You can save money. There's less workload on your Confluence admins. As I just mentioned, they don't need to manually reach out to Confluence users and chase them down about their duties. You can automate all these with rules and do it automatically at the right time. The second thing I thought about is if you do that right, if you create your Confluence content rules right, then you are really improving productivity because your teammates don't need to sift through outdated content when they're working with Confluence. They don't need to spend time thinking about whether a page they're looking at is still relevant, or they need to look for a more up-to-date version. They can be certain that what they're looking at in their Confluence instance is always up to date. And if that's the case, we also think that people will keep loving Confluence, keep loving working with Confluence, which will boost user adoption. Because you didn't invest in Confluence just to see it go almost unusable because of the all the outdated content that piled up in Confluence over the years. All right, so going into the specifics, let's just very briefly and quickly look into the tool called Better Content Archiving and see how you can actually realize those how you can set up the right lifecycle rules and you can realize your content lifecycle management strategy. The key component, the key feature inside Better Content Archiving is the archiving configuration. The configuration is basically a collection of rules that you set up and apply to a space or multiple spaces. Within your configuration, you manage three main things. The first is for page view tracking. So you need to decide when should a page be considered not viewed. The second thing is for page expiration tracking. So you need to decide when a page should be considered outdated. And the third is for page archiving, when you take the previous two parameters and combine them with an AND or OR operator to decide when a page should be moved to an archive space automatically. Let's zoom into a little bit more into this configuration to understand these settings a little bit better. So obviously you need to give it a name to make it easier to identify, and also because different content types require different content configurations at all. So you will be definitely managing your meeting notes differently than your workflow processes or other types of documents. The page view tracking is a very simple metric. It's a number of days that you can set up after which a page in your Confluence instance will be considered not viewed in your reports. You can also set up notifications for this event, where you can choose which stakeholders should be notified about an outdated page. You can decide if it's an author of the last modifier, or you can just freely define Confluence users who should be notified. The second is for expiration tracking. Again, a number of days after which a page should be considered not updated or outdated. But you can here use labels as well. There is a collection of labels preset that you can find in the documentation of the app. If you use those labels, you can manually control page expiration. So for example, as you see here as well, if you use a label with an exact date, regardless if there is a number of days set up, the page will be considered out of date on that date that you specified in the label. So that just gives you a more manual way to control this setting. Again, you can notify the right stakeholders just very similarly than in the previous setting. And for archiving, you can combine the not viewed and not updated parameters to decide when should a page archived automatically. So in this example, if a page is not viewed for 390 days and it's also not updated for 400 days, that will be moved out of the fresh space into an archive space automatically. Labels also are in play here, so you can manually archive a page or a family of pages with labels. And then obviously you can notify the right people when that happened. And when I say when that happened, means it's controlled by a scheduled job inside Confluence. So this configuration that you just saw is not happening real time, but it's scheduled with a scheduled job inside Confluence. Scheduled jobs are built-in feature for Confluence. You can modify that schedule and reschedule when you want to run and apply that configuration. By default, it happens every Monday morning. So the notification emails and the archiving happens on Monday mornings by default. But as I mentioned, you can reschedule that. And here is just a very simple example what happens when archiving runs. Here in the right, you see that we have some content under the help desk reports, parent page from 2015, 16, and 17. And let's say our configuration says that these reports are outdated and now need to be archived. What happens is the app takes these pages and moves them to a newly created archive space and puts them to the right place. The one thing I want you to notice here is that your page structure or page hierarchy is fully maintained. It's recreated in the archive space. So we are not creating piles of outdated pages in the archive space, but we're recreating your page hierarchy that you created and you are familiar with, so you won't have problem finding the archived content in the archive space. It's just not in your way when you're working with the fresh version of your Confluence space. All right, so that was the core functionality, so to say. But another very important thing I want to mention here is understanding your content quality. So better content archiving is, as I mentioned, all about automating your content lifecycle rules and cleanup, but it's also about analytics. And it gives you an understanding of the overall health of your Confluence instance. And it also takes a little bit different angle than other applications that are working around Confluence analytics, because we let you decide what when a page is considered popular or viewed or not viewed or outdated. So everything that you see here in this content quality statistics page is based on a Confluence configuration that I just showed you earlier. So it's all something that you set up. So going into this view and just try to understand what we're seeing here, the pages, the spaces are organized into categories. So we see a nicer image here. It's a built-in feature again in Confluence. You can organize your spaces into categories. Every line is a space, and we give you metrics for up-to-date pages in that one particular space. So it's the number and the ratio of the updated pages compared to the older pages in that space. Your expired pages, the number of viewed pages, and not viewed pages. And the ratio of your up-to-date pages and viewed pages will give you the quality, the overall quality metric for your space. So that gives you a pretty good reading about what's happening in your space. So that's a global, like an instance level view of what's happening with your content. But if you go into one space specifically, you have a similar page status browser where you can look at the pages inside that one space, and very similarly just see a status for the pages there. And also, if you zoom a little bit more on the page level, you have something called status indicator up top and on every Confluence page, which if you click on, you will get a nice little bubble that tells you the status of the page, and also information about who updated or viewed the page the last time. And it also gives you a few extra features that we call quick actions that you can use, for example, to set up a quick expiration date or set up archiving quickly. These menu items basically use the labels, so it will give you a more user-friendly way to apply labels on the page. Or you can start a discussion with someone about the content of the page if it's not up to you who decides. And for those of you or us who are concerned about privacy or regulations like GDPR, I just want to mention that the usernames can be suppressed. So if you decide so, you can hide the username so it's not visible who exactly was the one who edited or viewed the page last time. And also, a very important aspect of managing and communicating about the content lifecycle and about the status of your pages is notifications, or our notification emails. This is what it looks like when someone gets a notification email about some event or a status of pages that one particular user is responsible for. This one is for not viewed pages. This one lists expired pages and just reminds the user to take action and decide if those pages are still relevant or need updating or archiving. And whenever pages have been archived, the right stakeholders get a notification about what happened, that these pages have been archived in the past. The layout and content of these pages are configurable. So if you want to add extra content to these emails, or if you want to just modify anything and change the layout, you can do that by simply modifying the simple HTML template that you will have access inside the application. All right, so with that, that's a wrap. I hope you piqued your attention. I really recommend you to go ahead and try better content archiving, try creating some content lifecycle rules if you haven't already, and play around with it as soon as possible, because I guarantee that if not right now, you will need some sort of cleanup strategy down the line if you are using Confluence every day, and all your teams are relying on it every day. So with that, I want to just give it back to you, Jörg.
Thank you, Levente. And while I promote everybody to panelist, we have two questions in the chat that we can start a Q&A off with. The first question would be, is it already possible to define an extra archiving plan for the archive spaces? We want to delete every page in the archive space which is older than 10 years. This is not possible with our version. Is there a plan to offer this function in the near future?
Yes. So if I'm understanding it correctly, the question is about an archiving configuration for already archived spaces. So
Yes.
yeah, so that's not currently possible, but it's definitely something that we're looking at. If you have knowledge about the feature request, um, if you have been looking into this, I have a feeling that you already know that there is a feature request about it. If you don't, then let us know, and I will send you the link to that. We are collecting interest in that feature request currently.
Okay. And the second question from the chat would be, how does the plugin handle a reorder of the space tree and its pages?
Order.
So if a page is archived and then I reorder the space to the page tree in the space, basically.
Yeah. So if you don't, at the next time when you are having configuration runs, the app will check the new order, and it will try to sort it out. So our goal with archiving is to always recreate the currently live structure of your spaces. So unless you delete something in the fresh space, you should see the exact right order at the next time when the archiving configuration and the scheduled job runs.
Okay. I hope that answers that question. Thank you from the questioner. So that answered that question. And now you're all panelists. So your mics are open. You can share your video if you like and ask questions directly.
We had, hi, thanks for the presentation. We had like that request as well. So I think I can even like share the request a colleague of us did for that deleting of archived spaces.
Mm-hmm.
That will come in really handy because like since when the archive is there, it's still in the same instance. And we were thinking of like having a second, let's say, archiving of the archiving in order to get it out of the instance to make the instance slimmer. And but like since the archiving only takes place on non-archived spaces, it's like you would need to do like some database action and file out the sites for their date of archiving.
Yeah, I understand the use case. We definitely know the use case, and my goal here is to convey the message to the product team that so this just adds to the importance of this one. So thank you for raising that as well here. If I have any updates, we will. So the feature request is the forum where we are communicating. So I will make sure that I'll talk with the product team about that, and I'll post a status of this on the feature request. Okay, so if you don't follow that, follow it, please, and I will make sure that we give you an update.
Yeah, the problem with that issue is that it's like since it was like with the support thingy, it's just like viewable by the creator or the reporter. So we can only like watch the article I posted as well in the chat.
All right. Yeah. So then no worries, because I will then send the answer to Jörg, and he will post the everything to the community post that we have open. Right, Jörg? Is that how we can communicate? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the so we have a community group, and there's a post to this event here, and we can basically attach questions and answers to that post. There's a follow-up question. I don't know if that was answered yet. What is the official strategy how to get the old stuff deleted from archived spaces? Did we understand this wrong? In my understanding, we are now stuck in step 3 of 4 in the lifecycle management.
So what's the strategy for deleting? Our strategy is to, unless it's absolutely necessary, don't delete anything, because we're in the business of archiving. But with that said, there is something called so I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly. The way I understood it is that if there is a way to have the app delete content from Confluence instead of archiving. Because if that's the question, you can set up your configuration in a way to
no, that's not the question. The question is you already archived the page, and now has been 10 years in the archive, and then I want to get rid of it. And then there's and the request or the question here is there are 4 steps in your graphics. So retiring or whatever it was.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So that was
how do we do that?
Yeah, that's maybe that was a slight misunderstanding. Those steps were not how the app. I mean, if you have a page already archived, then the app doesn't have a way to handle already archived pages or spaces. That's what the previous question was. Yeah. It's a feature request to apply a new strategy or a new configuration to already archived spaces. Mm-hmm. And in that new configuration, you will have the option to probably delete content. But currently, if you have a fresh space, then you can have the app either to archive into an archive space or delete the space, or it's better to say to move it to trash inside Confluence.
So currently it's either step 3 or step 4, but there is no first step 3 and then step 4.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it would have been more accurate.
Okay. So but your strategy is that there will be a full life cycle, so I can archive it and then I can go to step 4 and delete it. So
Yes, yeah. The way I meant it is that you can either, as I said, either archive or delete, because we, if the strategy currently is and have been that if something went, outdated, then you can make a decision at that point that you can have you want that page to be archived or deleted. So we haven't thought about it as the way to archive and then delete, but we understand that's a valid use case, and we will be looking at that.
Yeah, because looking at the results from the polls, we have 60% participants who are in instances up to 10,000 users, and there that can be an issue because that archive can get pretty big and pretty old if you leave it lying around for very long. So
that's true.
So
we achieved like last year, or I think it was like end of last year, we reached the half. So we had like half the stuff on.
I see. Yeah.
And that's like becoming like, of course, like something a matter of backup and restore and.
I understand. Yes.
That's significant. 50% is not nothing. So that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, any other questions?
Yes. Sorry. We ran into that some time ago. I'm not sure if that's fixed, but like because I couldn't find the ticket anymore. So we had a particular strange use case. So imagine you have a page in your page tree, which has like a calendar, and a subpage of that page is like archived because it's getting old and it's like falls into your schema, so it gets archived. What the better archiving add-on did was copying the page with the calendar.
Yep.
Set the author to our technical user, which had our whole team DL behind it, and that made us all watchers of that calendar with that technical user. I think we had to go somewhere and like unwatch all the calendars from that user. But like, do you plan on some actions to prevent something like that?
I think I remember that ticket. I'm not sure what was the solution. Yeah, if you are probably know better what the solution was, if that was any. There is. It sounds like a one like a very specific particular issue, and I'm not sure what our approach would be from a technical point of view for that. But if that's something that concerns you, that I encourage you to either I can open a new support ticket or and talk to our team again, or you can do that as well, because I don't have a good answer to you right now. I'm to my knowledge, there's no initiative to prevent anything like that. But we should definitely have a technical person involved in that conversation, because there might be some limitations or something that I'm not aware of, and that what would be otherwise important.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Do you plan to? I mean, the focus of the add-on is just the archiving, I understand. But like, do you also plan to introduce like some stuff earlier in the life cycle? So like, for example, you have a review mechanism, which is like automatically triggered and creates tasks, or an approval stuff. Do you have plans for introducing something like that?
We do have plans for the app. We will be releasing something in the near future. It won't be something in the earlier part of the life cycle. It will be more geared towards better managing your Confluence. You're better managing your archiving configuration. I really don't want to give out the features that we're working on, but there will be new features coming out, not in the area that you mentioned, but we're definitely working on some great stuff.
That's cool. Thank you. I like by the way, I like the page status page. That was like one of the concerns we had earlier. So when we were like looking at, or we got like questions for, or when somebody just wants to check what's on the page, they were just resetting the timer on
Okay.
what's about to be archived. So that is really a good feature. That
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Yeah, thank you.
Do you plan to have the templates on space level, or you have them just globally, right?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
The templates for the messages, you have them on a global level, right? You don't have them, or is there a possibility to have them on space level?
Oh, yeah, that's on the global level. Yeah. Would you be interested in having those set up on the space level? Is that what you're?
Yeah, we had like some, or I had like some requests like of people asking if we can have like different information on the email, but like of course I don't want to change it for everyone in the whole instance.
Yeah. All right. This is on the global instance level right now. I have taken a note, and I will be getting back to you on that as well.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Then I have a follow-up question, which is I have to say I'm the less informed person in this group, so I don't know if that's a good question. Atlassian made a few announcements. Hey, we just introduced archiving of pages, yippee. as a feature. Could you compare your solution to that? And are you in any way threatened to that? Is that something else, or is that?
Yeah, it's not a. It's absolutely not a. It's a very good question. First of all, we are in talks with Atlassian, so we had some level of knowledge that they are planning to come out with a feature like that. We don't feel threatened at this point because they are working on Confluence, and they, to my knowledge, if I'm not mistaken, they announced that on Confluence Cloud. What they announced is basically pretty familiar to what they announced for Jira Cloud a couple of months earlier. They are looking at a page level archiving. There's also, it's something that you can do manually. So you can, if you are looking at a page and you decide that it's outdated, you can manually decide it's outdated, and you can archive it and get into an archive a Confluence space. But there's nothing, there's no way to compare our solution with that, because we are currently using automated rules that you can create to schedule the cleanup and do something manually at scale for server and data center customers. So what they are doing is a very simple way of moving and deciding on pages that needs to be archived. It's I don't think it's close to our offering at this point.
And if I haven't missed that, do you have any plans for the cloud?
No, you haven't missed that. We haven't talked about that live. So we are currently monitoring the situation with Confluence Cloud. Currently, the situation is that the Confluence Cloud API is currently not at the point, or not at an advancement level where we can, or anyone could build pretty complex applications on. And that's why we are looking at the possibility, but currently we don't see that we could deliver a good quality app for Confluence Cloud. We could do something. We could do like 10 or 20% of what we can do on server and data center. But our experience is that customers are comparing cloud and server apps. And if you went out with 10% of what we can do on server, it would be a huge disappointment. So we're looking at the possibility to come out in cloud, but right now we just have too many limitations to do it.
Okay. So if nobody else has questions, I will just continue asking. Another one. Did you have any requests like, oh, so Levente server was fun, thank you very much, but we are migrating to the cloud, but we could use your help basically to leave all that stuff behind that we do not want to migrate to the cloud. So is there any plans, or do you have any features that help customers that want to migrate in the cloud to keep a backup, an archive, a record of what they do not want to migrate into the cloud because it's either old, but it's still useful. It could be useful in the future, but it would just eat space in the cloud. Is there something like that? Is that a use case that you have been asked for?
It's very important. I mean, it's very interesting what you mentioned. No, we haven't heard about that use case. We haven't been contacted with anything like that from a customer yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question almost related to that. For data center, do you have like plans to have like a particular node serving as archive and the rest just performing as active Confluence?
That's an interesting question as well. Let me take notes. No, we heard that use case as well. We have a feature request for archiving content into a separate instance, separate Confluence instance. So that's a use case we heard about, but not the way where we could do that within a data center cluster. So that was a new question to me, and I will definitely take the ask the opinion of our product team and post that as well in the community post.
Okay, anything else?
Do you plan on like introducing like on space level that you can like basically tell who gets like notifications on pages, or like the long not viewed pages or the about to archive pages, which are like not administrator and not the reporter or last updater?
Yeah, so that's also an interesting thing, and you kind of touched on something that we're working on. So currently, you can define your Confluence users freely to be notified, but we are working on something called the page owners. So you will be able to define for a particular page an owner person who will be notified about events, and that owner. So we are also working on working with other popular app vendors for Confluence who might have the same or similar page owner feature, and we are trying to work with them to so you can select a page owner from another apps users as well. So I'm not sure if I'm making myself clear. The point is that yeah, we are working on something that is related to what you're asking.
That sounds really good. Another follow-up thingy for that one. Can you also like introduce that for groups? So like for our instance, it's like for they have like some roles, for example, and Confluence doesn't have that. We addressed that last week with the Confluence presentation as well. So we are like kind of faking that with groups to a certain extent, not all over the instance, but for some where like some pages are like more strict and others are more open. The restrictions would cost us like a tremendous amount of time to update them for every user. So like we introduced a role group replacing that user. Can you do that also for that one? That would be great, so that we can like just give that group that permission and notifications, and they can they get notified. So we have like in end effect we just have like one person in that group, but we can when that person goes on vacation or leaves the company, you just need to add another person to that group, and like everything is fine.
I see. Yeah, I see the question, and thanks. I'm not 100% sure if that this feature will be also added like with groups, but I don't. So I can't say that it will be. So I need to also find that out, but I don't see why it wouldn't be an interesting use case.
Thanks.
Thanks for bringing that up as well.
Okay, other questions? You can all ask directly. Let me just check the Q&A box. No, nothing in the Q&A box. Going once, going twice, and thank you. That's it for tonight, I would say. Levente, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing and answering all that questions. Any notes that you took, you can answer in the community group, and everybody else can find it in the community group. The link will be in the show notes for this video. And yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Levente. Have a nice evening. Have a nice time of day wherever you are. And see you next week on Monday again.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me again. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.